Welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you all with us for our third deep dive into Stephen Davis's 5-part workshop on the holographic universe.
This is going to be fun.
It really is. And for anyone joining us for the first time, you might want to check out the first 2 deep dives.
Yeah.
Where we kind of laid the foundation for this exploration of reality.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. And you can find a link to the workshop in the description below for those who are interested in following along.
Absolutely.
So for those of you returning, you'll remember how we explored the idea that reality might not be as solid and objective as we think it is.
Right.
Like, what if it's more like a projected illusion, like a 3D movie that our brains are generating from frequencies out there in some mysterious field?
Like a giant cosmic projector.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. So then it kind of begs the question, right? If our brains are just receivers, like radios picking up signals,
All right.
then who's the broadcaster?
Yeah.
What is the source of those frequencies that make up our reality?
Right. Who's deciding what gets played on our personal reality channel?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're going to unpack today, right?
Absolutely. You've hit on the central mystery that part 3 of Davis's workshop really digs into, and it takes us deep into the territory of consciousness. The model that he presents, and it's one that a lot of quantum physicists these days are exploring, is what's called the consciousness model.
Okay, the consciousness model. So are we saying like that our thoughts are literally creating our reality? Like if I think positive thoughts, I'll have a good day. And if I think negative thoughts, then things are going to go bad.
Well, that's a common interpretation, but it's a little bit of an oversimplification.
Okay.
The model suggests that it's consciousness itself.
Right.
And keep in mind, defining consciousness is a challenge in itself.
Well, yeah.
But the model suggests that it's consciousness that's somehow involved in selecting the frequencies from this field that eventually become our individual holographic experiences.
Hold on. Let's just rewind for a sec. You mentioned defining consciousness as a challenge.
Yeah, it's a slippery fish.
What makes it so difficult to pin down?
That's a great question. And Davis tackles it head on in the workshop by bringing in some really big names.
Okay.
Quantum physics, neuroscience, philosophy. He quotes experts like Dr. Amit Goswami, Dr. Jeffrey Satinover, Fred Alan Wolf.
Wow, yeah.
And they all kind of express the difficulty of really getting a handle on what consciousness actually is. You know, it's one of those things we all experience. We know it when we see it.
Right.
But to actually define it is like trying to grab smoke.
I get that. It's like I know that I'm conscious.
Right.
You know that you're conscious.
Exactly.
But if someone asked us to define it, we'd probably like stammer a bit.
Totally. He'd be like, well,
Yeah.
It's tricky. And that's why Davis uses this analogy.
Okay.
Imagine a tribe in the Amazon rainforest.
Okay.
And they encounter a radio for the first time. They can figure out how it works, the mechanics of it, how the sound is transmitted.
Yeah.
But the source of the music, the broadcaster, that remains a mystery. They hear the voice, but they can't see who's behind it.
So we're like that tribe.
Yeah.
We can observe the effects of consciousness, how it shapes our world. But the source of it,
Right.
the consciousness itself, the broadcaster, is still this big question mark.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because if we accept that consciousness plays a role in shaping our reality,
Right.
then the next question is, whose consciousness are we talking about?
Oh, right. Yeah. If my consciousness is just receiving and interpreting these frequencies, then there's got to be some other consciousness out there on the other side of the field doing the transmitting. But who or what is that?
That is the million-dollar question, and that's where Davis brings in the work of Daryl Anka.
Okay.
He channels an entity called Bashar. Bashar offers a really fascinating perspective, describing 3 levels of consciousness.
Okay.
The first is the higher self.
Okay.
Bashar describes it as the source of our experiences.
Okay.
The one that's conceiving of the frequencies that we're going to receive.
Okay.
Then there's the physical brain, which acts as the receiver, picking up those frequencies from the field.
Right.
And then finally, there's the personality, the you that we identify with, the perceiver. That's the one who interprets and experiences those frequencies as our reality.
So according to Bashar, we're not actually creating our experiences, but rather we're experiencing them.
That's the implication, yeah. We're like actors in a play, playing out roles written by someone else.
Okay.
In this case, our higher self.
So we're in the experience, but we're not necessarily orchestrating it.
Right. We might think we are, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a lot to take in. I'm definitely starting to see why you call this a mind-bending workshop. I can definitely see how this idea might challenge people's sense of control.
Oh, absolutely.
We like to think that we're in the driver's seat of our lives, making all the decisions.
Right. It's a big shifting perspective. To use another analogy, a trumpet player in an orchestra, they don't try to be the conductor.
Right.
They play their part,
Right.
and they trust the conductor to guide the overall performance. Same with like a left tackle in football.
Okay, yeah.
He knows his job is to protect the quarterback.
Right.
He's not calling the plays. And a surfer, he doesn't think he's creating the waves, but he can choose how he rides them.
Right.
We're participating in the experience, but maybe not calling the shots.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get a feel for this. But if our higher self is writing the script, as you put it, why are we even here then? What's the point of this whole holographic experience?
That's another big question that Davis encourages us to ponder.
Okay.
It's definitely one that we'll continue to explore as we go deeper into this workshop.
Okay, cool. I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a journey for sure, and like any good adventure, it's full of twists and turns. One of the most interesting parts of this model is how it changes our understanding of free will.
Oh, okay.
If our higher self is setting the stage, so to speak, where does our own choice come in?
That's a really good question. Kind of seems like if there's this higher self calling the shots, then our choices don't really matter.
Right.
Like we're just puppets on strings.
Yeah, it's tempting to think that, but Davis has a more nuanced view. Think of it like this. Imagine you're playing a video game.
Okay.
Game designers, they've created the world, the rules, the challenges. But within that, you have the freedom to make choices, right?
Right.
Explore different paths, develop your character.
So our higher self sets the stage, but we still have the freedom to choose how we play the game.
Exactly. Our free will might not be about controlling the whole story, but rather how we respond to the experiences that come our way.
Okay.
It's about choosing our attitude, our actions, our responses.
So it's like the game is set up, but I can still choose to be like a kind and helpful character or just a total jerk.
Right, exactly.
The choice is mine.
And those choices have consequences within the game, just like our choices have consequences in our lives.
Right.
It's not about denying the influence of a larger consciousness,
Okay.
but about recognizing the power we do have within that framework.
So this is really making me rethink this whole you create your own reality thing.
Yeah.
It seems like there's more to it than that.
It's not so simple.
It's not just about positive thinking or manifesting what you want.
Right.
There's a bigger picture.
That's right. And that's one of the key takeaways from this model. It's not a denial of personal responsibility, but a recognition that we're participating in a co-creative process with something bigger than ourselves. It's a dance.
The dance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Between our individual will and the guidance of our higher self.
Got it. Okay. But if this higher self is supposedly so wise and benevolent, why is there so much pain and suffering in the world?
Yeah.
Why are things so messed up?
That's the question that always comes up.
Right.
And it's one that Davis doesn't shy away from. He acknowledges that seeming paradox.
Yeah.
If there's this loving, intelligent force orchestrating our experiences, why do we encounter such difficult challenges?
It's like if you were a benevolent game designer. Wouldn't you want your players to just have a fun and easy time?
Right.
Why throw in all this hardship and suffering?
It's a valid point, and Davis doesn't claim to have all the answers.
Okay.
But he offers some really thought-provoking perspectives.
Okay.
One idea is that these challenges, even the really painful ones, might be opportunities for growth.
Growth.
Yeah. Like a muscle needs resistance to get stronger.
Okay.
Maybe our souls need challenges.
Oh, okay.
To evolve and expand.
So it's like those hard levels in a video game, the ones that make you want to scream,
right,
are actually there to make you a better player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They test our limits, force us to think differently, and ultimately they help us level up. Another idea Davis talks about is that we might actually be choosing these experiences
Wait.
at some level.
Hold on. You're saying we're choosing to experience hardship and suffering.
It might sound strange, but if we consider the idea of reincarnation, or the idea that our souls exist beyond this lifetime,
Okay, yeah.
then it's possible that we're choosing these experiences from a higher perspective.
A higher perspective.
Knowing that they will ultimately help us evolve.
Okay. So maybe from the perspective of our higher self, these challenges make sense.
Right.
It's like some kind of cosmic boot camp designed to help us grow.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. And it's important to remember that we're dealing with models here.
Okay.
Frameworks for understanding.
Right.
We're trying to piece together a puzzle.
Right. And we don't have all the pieces.
You don't have all the pieces.
Yep.
But one of the most exciting aspects of this model is that it opens up so many new questions.
Okay.
It challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about reality, about consciousness, about our place in the grand scheme of things.
It definitely makes you realize how much we just take for granted.
Totally.
Like how much we assume is true without even questioning it.
And that questioning,
Yeah.
that curiosity, that's at the heart of this whole exploration. It's about embracing the mystery, admitting that we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And being open to new ways of seeing the world.
So if we're not in control of the big picture,
Right.
if there's this higher self guiding our experiences, then what does that mean for our everyday lives?
Yeah.
How should we actually live knowing this?
That's a wonderful question to consider.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to the practical implications of this model.
Okay.
One thing that Davis suggests, and it's an idea that's found in a lot of spiritual traditions, is this idea of surrender.
Surrender, like giving up.
No, not quite. It's more about surrendering to the flow of life.
Okay.
Trusting that even the challenging experiences are ultimately for our benefit.
So it's not about being passive,
No.
but more about trusting that there's a wisdom at play that's beyond our understanding.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're part of something much, much bigger than we can even grasp.
Yeah.
And that within that design, we have the freedom to choose our attitude, our actions, our responses.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like the game is already in motion, but we still have the power to choose how we play.
Exactly. And that choice, that freedom to respond, that's where our true power lies.
So how do we even begin to connect with this higher self? Is it meditation? Is it prayer? Is it something else?
That's a great question, and one that we'll be digging into more in the next part of this deep dive. Davis actually offers some practices and techniques for accessing this level of consciousness.
Okay.
But for now, I think the most important thing is just to cultivate awareness.
Awareness of what?
Awareness of your thoughts, your emotions, how you react to the world around you.
Okay.
Notice the patterns that come up, the beliefs that shape your perceptions, the stories you tell yourself.
So it's like paying attention to what's going on in our minds.
Exactly.
Becoming more conscious of those programs that are running in the background.
Right. The more we understand our own inner landscape, the more we can begin to hear the whispers of our higher self.
Okay. So it's like if we're constantly bombarded with mental noise,
Yeah.
it's hard to hear that subtle guidance.
Exactly. And that's why things like meditation, mindfulness, self-reflection can be so helpful. They help us quiet the mind to create space.
This is all so fascinating, but I have to admit, part of me still struggles with this idea of not being in control.
It's a big shift. I get it.
This big shift?
Yeah. And Davis acknowledges that it can be hard for the ego to accept. We're so used to believing that we're in charge that we have to control everything.
Right. Like we're taught to be the captain of our ship, the master of our fate. And now we're saying maybe we're not.
Right.
That's unsettling, to say the least.
It can be, but it can also be incredibly freeing.
Oh.
Because when we let go of that need to control everything, when we surrender to the wisdom of the infinite I, we open ourselves up to a level of peace and joy that's beyond the grasp of the ego.
Okay. So maybe surrendering control isn't about giving up.
Yeah.
It's about embracing a different kind of power.
Right.
A power that comes from connecting with something bigger than ourselves.
Beautifully put. It's about recognizing that we're not alone on this journey, that there's a guiding force supporting us every step of the way.
So instead of trying to white-knuckle our way through life, trying to control every outcome, we can just relax into the flow, trust that the challenges are taking us where we need to be.
That's the essence of it. It's about moving from a mindset of fear and control to a mindset of trust and surrender.
It sounds like a pretty big change in how we see things, but also kind of beautiful.
It is. It's a journey worth taking.
Well, I'm definitely intrigued.
Uh-huh.
And I can't wait to hear what else Stephen Davis has to say.
Yeah.
As we continue to explore this model of the holographic universe.
Me too. And we'll be back to do just that in our next deep dive, where we'll jump into part 4 of the workshop.
Awesome.
Yeah. And uncover even more fascinating insights. But before we wrap up today, there's one more question that I've been thinking about.
Okay.
If we're not the ones creating our reality, If there's this higher self calling the shots, what about all this talk about manifesting,
Right.
the power of positive
Yeah,
thinking?
yeah. Does that stuff even matter?
That's a great question. It's one that a lot of people have when they first hear these ideas.
Okay.
The short answer is yes, it matters.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all ears.
But maybe not in the way we've traditionally been taught. Think of it like this. Your higher self is like a master artist,
Okay.
and you're the brush.
Okay.
The artist has a vision in mind, but they need the brush to bring it to life.
So our thoughts and intentions are like the brush strokes, helping to shape the final creation.
That's a good analogy. Our thoughts, beliefs, emotions, they all carry a certain frequency.
Okay.
And those frequencies interact with the field influencing the experiences we bring into our lives.
So if we're always dwelling on negative thoughts, if we're vibrating at a low frequency, we're more likely to attract negative experiences.
Exactly. It's like tuning your radio. If you want to listen to classical music, you wouldn't tune into a rock station.
Right.
Similarly, if you want to experience joy, abundance, love, you need to align your thoughts and emotions with those frequencies.
But it's not about forcing it
No.
or pretending to be happy when you're not.
Right.
It's about becoming more aware of the thoughts and beliefs that are holding you back and choosing to shift your perspective.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose the station you're tuned into.
Oh, okay.
You can focus on fear and lack, or you can choose to focus on love and abundance.
So manifesting isn't about controlling the universe,
Yeah.
but it's about aligning yourself with the frequencies of what you want to experience.
Exactly. It's about becoming a conscious co-creator with your higher self, working together to bring your highest vision to life.
That's a really empowering way to think about it. It means we're not just victims of circumstance. We actually have a say in shaping our reality.
And that's a key message that I hope listeners will take away from this.
Yeah.
You have more power than you realize. You have the power to choose your thoughts, to cultivate positive emotions, to align yourself with the frequencies of joy, abundance, and love.
And that's a beautiful thought to end on. So to all our listeners out there, just remember, you're not alone on this journey. You have a higher self guiding you, supporting you, loving you unconditionally.
That's right.
Trust the process, embrace the unknown, and just allow yourself to be amazed by the unfolding mystery of your life.
Beautifully said.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into this fascinating world of consciousness and reality. But until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind.
So much to think about. If we're not the ones solely responsible for creating our reality, but rather co-creating with this higher self, where does that leave things like personal responsibility and making choices? Does it mean we just kind of sit back and let fate take over?
It's a great question, and it's something that Davis explores in detail. The idea isn't to become passive, but to understand that there's this interplay between our individual will and this broader guidance.
Yeah.
Think of it like learning to sail. You can't control the wind, but you can learn to harness its power
Oh, okay.
by adjusting your sails.
So we're still responsible for setting our intentions, making choices that align with what we want, but we're also acknowledging that there are forces at work that we may not fully grasp. Exactly. And this is where Davis brings up a concept that might be even more challenging for the ego to accept. And that's the idea that even the term higher self might be a little misleading.
Really? How so? I mean, it seems like a pretty good description of this wise, benevolent aspect of ourselves.
It's a helpful starting point, but the language can create a sense of duality. Like there's the separation between us and this higher aspect. But Davis points out that it's all part of the same consciousness, the same infinite I.
So it's not like there's this separate entity, this higher self, sitting up in the clouds pulling strings. It's more like it's all part of this interconnected, I don't know, web of consciousness.
That's the idea. It's less about a hierarchy and more about different facets of the same multifaceted jewel.
Okay.
Davis actually suggests the term infinite I
Infinite I.
as a more neutral and accurate way to describe this source consciousness.
Infinite I like that. It feels more expansive, less, I don't know, hierarchical, but it still begs the question, why would this infinite I, this ultimate source of all that is, create a reality that includes so much suffering?
Yeah.
Why not just create a paradise? A world where everyone's just happy and fulfilled all the time.
But that's a question that philosophers and theologians have been grappling with for centuries.
Right.
And Davis approaches it with with humility.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that we can only speculate from our limited human perspective.
It's like trying to understand the ocean from the perspective of a fish.
Exactly, but he does offer some intriguing possibilities. One is that suffering might be a necessary ingredient for growth and evolution. Just as a muscle needs resistance to grow stronger, perhaps our souls need challenges to evolve and expand their capacity for love, compassion, wisdom.
So it's like those difficult experiences, the moments of heartbreak and loss are actually chances for our souls to learn and grow.
That's one way to look at it. Another possibility that Davis puts forward is that suffering might be a catalyst for awakening.
Awakening.
You know, when we're comfortable and complacent, we might not be motivated to question our assumptions, to seek a deeper meaning, to connect with something larger than ourselves. But when we're faced with pain and suffering, it can shake us out of our complacency and force us to really confront those big questions about life, death, and the nature of reality.
So it's like those moments of darkness, those times when we feel lost and alone, can actually be what helps us find our way back to the light.
That's the idea. It's
Wow.
a paradox, but sometimes it's through our greatest challenges that we discover our greatest strengths.
This whole model is so mind-bending,
Hmm.
but also incredibly hopeful.
Yeah.
It suggests that even though we may not be in control of everything that happens to us, there's a purpose to it all. A meaning that's unfolding even in the midst of suffering.
And that's the beauty of this perspective. It doesn't deny the reality of pain and suffering, but it gives us a way to understand it, to find meaning and purpose even in the darkest of times.
It's like instead of being the director of our lives,
Mm.
we're becoming the actors, fully embracing the roles we're given, trusting that the script, however it unfolds, is ultimately leading us towards our highest good.
Beautifully put. And that trust, that surrender to the unfolding mystery of life, that's ultimately what leads to true peace and freedom.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Stephen Davis's Holographic Universe workshop, what's the one key takeaway that you hope listeners will carry with them?
I think the most important message is that you're not alone. You're part of something much grander than you can possibly imagine. There's a wisdom at play in your life, a guiding force that's orchestrating your experiences for your growth and evolution. And even though you might not always understand the reasons behind the challenges you face, you can choose to trust that they're serving a purpose, and that by surrendering to the flow of life, you'll ultimately find your way back to wholeness.
Beautifully said. So to all our listeners out there, remember that you're not just a random collection of thoughts and feelings, but a spark of the infinite I, a unique expression of the divine. Embrace that truth. Trust the journey and allow yourself to be amazed by the unfolding mystery of your life. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into this fascinating world of consciousness and reality. But until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind.